Sports Hub Video are delighted to welcome former Spurs, Colchester, Notts County and Charlton Athletic legend Johnnie Jackson. How you doing, Johnny?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to take you back to the start really and Tottenham Hotspur, and we'll put to one side the fact that you are a massive Arsenal fan. How proud were you as a youngster to sign on with Spurs and at a Premier League club?
Really proud. Since I started walking, really, I was kicking a ball and all I ever wanted to do is be a footballer. So the opportunity to go to any club, let alone like a club like Spurs, was a dream come true for me, really. So the minute I got the opportunity, despite my affiliation, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get down there.
How did it come about? So what sort of age were you? How did the approach come?
So I started at Spurs when I think I was 9 or 10. Certainly I was young, just playing Sunday football really. The tried and tested scout comes up to my dad after and says, we'd like to get your son over for training, and went from there really, and got invited over and just went training maybe once or twice a week for a period, and then just stayed there ever since basically.
Yeah. How did it go about in terms of feeling within the club, within that level? When did you start to realise that you were maybe a level above some of the other boys at your age?
What, from a Sunday club or once I was at Spurs?
Both.
Well, I never really felt that with my Sunday club because we was all going off to clubs. We had a real good side, and at that stage, 9, 10, 11, 12, like all of us were in clubs. There was a load of boys at QPR. Jay Bothroyd was in my team, who obviously was at Arsenal and went on to have a good career as well. So never particularly felt above it in my Sunday football, and never really until it got a little bit down the line at Spurs. Was I convinced that I was going to make the grade there? I never particularly felt above the rest of my peers until I was a YT. In them 2 years, I sort of really kicked on and got offered like a pro quite early after that. But certainly when I was younger, 10, 11, 12, I was in a good side, and I just felt, I felt amongst it, but I didn't necessarily feel superior at that stage.
They had a pretty strong squad, to be fair to them, Spurs, including Robbie Keane, Freddie Canute, Jamie Redknapp, Jermaine Defoe, Ledley King. As a young man, what kind of challenges did you face bedding into that squad, the team?
It was difficult getting in a team like that, and it took me, I went down the road of having the loans, went out on loan to Swindon, Colchester, got some good experience under my belt in that. I think that was League One at the time, and then went to Coventry in the Championship. So I sort of made the necessary steps, and I was doing well at every step. And I was always in pre-season. I was in amongst the first team and involved, and always felt I held my own. But I think it was only until I went out on those loans and done well, and they saw me in league football, that they was willing to sort of take the gamble of putting me in the side. And obviously to be in a team and amongst them was quite daunting, but great experience. And obviously training with the likes of Ledley and Keno, the lads you've spoken about, makes you, improves you every day. Did
any of them make a particular point of putting an arm around you?
Ledley was always good with me because obviously we came through the youth teams together, so he was always the boy wonder, and he was in the first team from 17, but we played sort of a bit of resi football together, and I'd known him for a long, long time. I used to bring him in the car with me before, because Ledley didn't get his driving licence until he was about 20. So I used to pick him up because he lived in East London, so I was making my way through. So I was quite close with Ledley, and he always looked out for me, even though he was in the side long before me. But yeah, he was really good to me. But considering I was the only one who came out of my youth team that from my year anyway that got involved, everyone was good to me. I'd been at the club a long time, and was well known to the coaches and things like that. So it was a natural progression. I never felt like I didn't belong particularly.
Fantastic. And then obviously you went on to make your debut. I have a little quiz question for you. I'm going to think you're going to get it right, but February 2004, You score your first goal for Spurs in a 4-2 away win. Who was it against?
Charlton.
Absolutely. We shall come.
It was my one and only goal, so I should remember it.
Yeah. One and only at Spurs.
One and only at Spurs, yeah.
You mentioned this already, but like many emerging players, you went out on loan to various clubs: Swindon, Colchester, Coventry, Watford, and Derby. As a young man and new to the game, how did you handle the loans and kind of elaborating on before, where do you feel that it finally clicked for you?
It was a mixed bag, to be honest, my loans. The first two were brilliant. Swindon was where I made my league debut. And at that stage, I was playing resi football and had obviously done well in the youth teams, got in the reserve team, was doing well, but it was ready for something else because you can't quite replicate that, that first team football and playing for 3 points and all that. So at that stage, I think 18, I was ready for it. So I loved it. That first season that I went to Swindon and Colchester in the same season. I maybe got like 30 games under my belt. Before that, I don't think even though you are a professional, on paper, I don't think you are a professional footballer really till you've gone out and you've done a season getting that football under your belt. So that was great. But I'd done well, and then I needed that next step. So to go from sort of Swindon and Colchester to Tottenham's team is a big gap to bridge. So I think it was important, and my next one was Coventry in the Championship. Obviously another step up. Could I handle that? And I only had a month there, and I was recalled. I'd done really well. I think I played like 4 or 5 games only, but scored a few goals, done well, and got recalled at that stage. And that was when I got put in the side. So without them loans, I don't think I was obviously being monitored, especially in the Coventry one. I don't think if I hadn't done well and shown that I could handle that sort of football, that I'd have got recalled and put in the Spurs side. So, and obviously being a coach now, I see that for young lads at our football club or any level, that they're the progressions you need, because you can't just jump from, unless you're a real special player, and it does happen from time to time, but from youth team straight into a first team, it's a massive gap to bridge. So them loans, for me, were invaluable, especially them first 3. After that, it got more difficult because I'd got in Spurs' side, had a taste of that, played in the Premier League, and that was what I wanted. But then I found myself out of Spurs' side, out of favour, not playing any football again. And you go from having played X amount of games and playing in the Premier League to all of a sudden back in the resis, and now you're like, you ain't happy anymore. So the next couple of loans I had to go back down. I went to Derby, which didn't go great for me. I went Watford, which turned out all right in the end. Struggled to start with, but then turned out all right. And but once you've had that taste of first team football, there's no going back. It's really, really difficult to then go back to resis or to drop down a level. It's tough. So mixed bag with the loans, but definitely like invaluable experience.
With the career in the bag,
yeah,
the experience you've now got, looking back in hindsight, what were the difficulties you faced, and how did you handle those as an individual, having made that debut, that run in the Premier League, and then back out on loan?
It was a weird when I used to think about making my debut for Spurs. I used to think that I would be incredibly nervous. Would I be able to handle the situation? To go to the lane every week and watch and think, Jesus, like how would I handle being out there? And then when I did get in the side, it was real strange. I didn't have any nerves whatsoever. And sometimes I think that just comes with being young. No expectation of me whatsoever, and I loved it. I enjoyed it, and I played probably 7 or 8 games, quite sort of unburdened. But it was only after that when I'd done reasonably well when I first got in the side and playing with freedom, and then there become a little bit of expectation, right? You've got to keep your place in the side, or you've done well, you've got to keep doing well. And that was when I really found it start to get tough. Could I sustain that level? Could I handle the pressure of playing every week for a side like Spurs? And then I found it tough after that. I used to get a bit nervous after that, and I think I put pressure on myself, and I couldn't get back to that feeling of freedom that I had when I first got in the side, and consequently affected my form, came out the side, and then you find yourself back out on loan, having to do it all again. And I think that's maybe why the Derby and the Watford loans didn't work out so great. I was trying to find my way in that period. Was I a Tottenham player, or was I going to have to go somewhere else to forge my career? Probably a bit uncertainty, and probably maybe lost sort of 6 months, a year in my development really in that period. Do I look back and regret it? Yeah, I mean, I wish I'd handled it a little bit better, but I was a young boy who got into Tottenham's team and, you know, had a couple of quid at the time and stuff like that. You go from having nothing to, and it's a tough time. You know, you're a young lad, and you're not wise. You can be wise after the event, but it was quite a lot to handle, and probably for a little period there didn't handle it brilliantly. I think that was probably why. You know, I don't think I was ever quite a Tottenham player. You know, I had my taste of it and I'd done well, but it was difficult for me to sustain that level. And Spurs were building at the time, bringing in a lot of, you know, top quality players, international footballers. They was really trying to build something, and, you know, became quite aware that I probably was going to have to forge my career elsewhere. And it was only after I left Tottenham that I sort of really knuckled down again and got back on track.
I think, in fairness, to look back on that time, the fact that you didn't just fall away further down the pecking order at different clubs or non-league football, you've stuck with it, you've worked hard and forged a fantastic career for yourself. I think probably fair to say it may well have built the character that you've gone on to be. Yeah,
definitely. Like I don't look back at any. Like, I loved my time there, and I'm comfortable in the fact that, you know, I wasn't quite good enough to play for a team like Spurs for long enough. I feel privileged to have had the opportunity that I did. And I deserved it at the time, you know, and I've done well, and I scored a goal in the Premier League and played in the North London Derby. Like, I've had great experiences from it.
Would it be fair to say you clattered Patrick Vieira?
I probably tried to. I tried to clatter a few of them that day, but it was hard to get anywhere near them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what an experience. Oh, I mean, I dreamed of playing in that game. I ended up playing up for the wrong team, but...
Well, in your own words, you said it was a privilege to play for Spurs.
Listen, it was. I mean, I loved every minute of it, and Tottenham's a great club.
Yeah.
It was brilliant for me. I had a great football upbringing there. I wouldn't change anything at all.
I ask this question with the utmost respect. I'm just interested in your opinion, because it goes without doubt that you have been a quality player. What was the difference? What was that extra little bit for the Premier League, do you think?
For me, I think pace. I think if I'd have been quicker, I think I might have had a Premier League career. Was never the quickest. Was never the most mobile. Now I look back and think, is there more that I could have done? Perhaps at that stage, you know, I'm much more aware now of the sports science side of things, and I do look back and think, is there more that I could have done? Could I have worked on my pace a bit more? Could I have worked on my mobility? Would that have helped me have had a longer career at that level? Perhaps. I'll never know. But I think they were the things. I don't think it was lack of ability. You know, I was a good passer of the ball. I was technically good. Sort of tactically aware, but I think it was the physicality of the Premier League. They're different animals. They're all. I mean, if you talk about that Arsenal side that we played, they was all 6 foot plus, all lightning quick. You know, endurance. Like, they strong. They had a bit of everything, and I think that was probably what I lacked to be quite at that level.
Yeah, fantastic answer, and I really appreciate that. Before we glow about Arsenal too much more, you completed your loans at the clubs mentioned before transferring to Colchester United in the Championship. The move presented that opportunity that you've touched on to fully establish yourself as a first team regular. How excited were you by this move, and how do you look back on your time at the club?
I was really excited because I think I stayed at Spurs. I wish I'd left maybe a year earlier, because of my last year I didn't play. I think I played one game out of the blue. I think that might have been against Charlton as well. But I hadn't played properly in a long time. So I sort of wasted a bit of a year. I should have got out a bit sooner. So by the time it came to leave, I was ready to leave. Like, I knew that it was now time to go and make a career. And obviously I was looking for the right club, and Colchester turned out to be the perfect club for me. I had 3 great years there. Went on to play probably over 100 games and become a real established seasoned pro. Which is what I needed to do. I went into a great side. Like, they'd just got promoted from League One to the Championship, which Colchester had never been at that level. Went into a great dressing room, really good team, and flourished really. Had 3 great years there. So yeah, I mean, I was ready for it at that time, and it turned out to be probably the perfect club for me at that stage as well.
Did it give you that final bit of confidence or reassurance that, yeah, you can do this, and Spurs was a section of your career, but now it's time to kick on?
Yeah, it did, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I always had confidence in my ability, and I wasn't like leaving Spurs with a heavy heart, really. It was my time, and I knew, like I've touched on, I knew I weren't quite at that level, but I want to go and prove that, I can crack on here and have a good career. Truth be told, I probably thought that I would get a better club than Colchester at that time, because Colchester, in fairness to them, is a small club, with like a non-league history. Like I say, they'd just got in the Championship, but they'd never ever been there before, and haven't been there since. So I probably thought, coming from Spurs, that you naturally get a bigger club, especially that I'd been at Derby and a Watford and a Coventry on loan. But for whatever reason, it didn't happen. I found myself at Colchester, but yeah, it was brilliant for me. I had some great times there and played some good football, and it definitely sort of put me on the ladder on my way to being like a good solid pro.
If we could circle back round a fraction, then at that time of looking to leave Spurs, opportunities arising, what were some of the other potential moves that could have?
Yeah, so my last loan was Watford, and I was going to sign for Watford. When I first went there, I struggled a little bit. I was playing on the left, and I wasn't doing particularly well. And then I moved more central, played centre mid for probably my last 10 games there, and done really well. Sort of won them round a little bit, and Ray Lewington, who's Roy Hodgson's assistant now at Palace, was with him in England as well. He was the manager at the time, Ray, and Ray liked me, and we was gonna try and sign permanently. It was perfect for me, round the corner from where I lived, and it would have been a good move. And then Ray got sacked, and the move went away. So that one sort of, died a death, and it was back to the drawing board. Where did I go? Obviously, I'd been on loan at Colchester before under Phil Parkinson, who was the manager. So I knew there was the interest from them, and it was Southend was the other club really. So it was basically between them two at the stage, and Southend was in the Championship at the time as well. They had a good team, and it was just, I don't remember the ins and outs of it. I think it was just like, whoever offers the best deal basically was where I'd go, or whoever showed the most interest and stuff like that. And Phil Parkinson was the man who sort of stepped forward really. He was new to management. I think I was his first ever signing in management. So he won me round, and I've had a sort of relationship with him ever since. He signed me for Charlton as well. So turned out to be the right move, definitely.
2009 brought a very interesting move to the oldest professional club in Britain, Notts County, who of course in the midst of a takeover from a mystery investor at the time. It came at a time when Sven-Goran Eriksson was named Director of Football, Kasper Schmeichel signed from Man City, and Sol Campbell came in from Portsmouth. Sol made his debut away to Morecambe and left halfway through a training session the following week. I would just love for you to reflect on that period, because I don't know the questions to ask to this. So.
It was a mad time. I mean, you touched on some of it there. Like, I was at Colchester and Paul Lambert had come in and I was out of favour. He didn't fancy me, and I knew I needed to get out of there. But I honestly didn't know where I was going at that stage. I was talking to Parky that summer about trying to come to Charlton, and I was desperate to go there really. But he kept saying, yeah, it may happen, it may not. But you know, it was dragging on and on and on, and I was starting to think I need to look for something else. But there wasn't really anything else coming up. And then, you know, there was all this. You kept seeing it every day. Someone was signing for Notts County, like something mad's going on there, like. And then bang, I got a call out of the blue. I was playing golf. I remember it. I was playing golf, and the phone goes, and it was the Notts County manager at the time. It was Charlie McPartland. Obviously, Sven was there, and he said, like, will you come up and talk to us? Like, we're interested in signing you. So I was like, yes, I will. Even though it was League Two, like, you know, you was hearing all these mad stories, and you know, they was throwing money about, and like, obviously Casper had signed at that stage already. You know, Lee Hughes up front, who was terrific at that level. They was building an unbelievable side for the level. So I went up there, spoke to them, you know, this grand 5-year plan about Sven's laying it out about how we're going to be in the Premier League in 5 years, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and you know, it was nice money and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, I'll have a bit of this. I didn't really want to play like League Two. You know, I felt I was better than that, but I knew that it was because, you know, there was something better coming. So I jumped on board. Yeah, we had Casper in goal. Like they basically built like a championship side in a year. Sol come in. There was mad rumours that, you know, Nedved was going to sign. He was hearing all these mad names, and he was like, yeah, of course they are. But then when Sol Campbell walks through the door, you're like, well, hang about. If he can come, like, anyone can come. Casper Schmeichel's your goalie. Like, it's like, well, it was nuts. It was a nutty year, and like, we basically, like, we won every week. And like, we ended up, like, romping the league. So it was a good year. But by the December, the mystery owner, how you put it, had disappeared. All the money had gone. And everything, this 5-year plan was up in smoke. And we was all like, Jesus, what are we going to do now? So then I was trying to get out of there. So it was like a whirlwind sort of, I think by the January I was at Charlton already on loan. I only signed in August. And ended up going to Charlton on loan, going back to Notts County, finishing the season. Like, we won the league. For my first sort of medal in football, and it was good, but it was a crazy time. Like the Sol one was mad. He walked in, and obviously I played with Sol at Spurs. And I was like, I can't believe that he's at Notts County in League Two. And he turned out he weren't in great shape. So I don't know if he was out of contract at Portsmouth and hadn't been training or whatever. Played this game at Morecambe, and when I tell you he got the run around by like 2 journeyman forwards, and you could see that he was thinking, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And like you said, literally we was training on the Monday, and it was like we didn't have like our own training ground, so we'd get changed at the stadium. We'd all have to drive our cars to the training ground, get out, train, drive back. Mid-session, we ran around Sols, just give it, like, sorry lads, this ain't for me. Shook everyone's hand, said, I'm gone, I'm out of here. And we were like, what? He's like, yeah, gone, bang, in the motor, back to the ground, got changed, never saw him again. We got back there.
Did you laugh, or?
It was all laughing, it was crazy. It was like, nah, is he coming back? And he's like, no, he's gone. Took all his gear, ripped up his contract, just decided weren't for him. Like, I mean, God knows what he signed for or what he was promised, and like, you know, he probably never saw any of it. He probably just like, yeah, this ain't what I signed up for. But
crazy
it's a
time nonetheless.
mad one, yeah.
Well, it's great to reflect on that, and we're still talking about it 10 years later.
Yeah.
So it's one to talk about in the bar in years to come. We will come to further frustrating ownership stories, but I'd like to reflect firstly on what appears to be the main club of your career, Charlton Athletic. The Addicts are where you played the majority of your career and found you scoring boots, 250 games, 50 plus goals. Under what manager do you feel you played your best football at Charlton?
Chris Powell, yeah. I mean, Parky signed me, and I always done well for Parky. I came in at a funny time. I come in with, you know, some lads who've gone on to have really good careers. Simon Francis, who went to Bournemouth and had, played in the Premier League. Alan McCormack, who went on to have a top career. But for whatever reason, out of that crop that came in, they all struggled, and I was the only one who sort of seemed to do well in that first period. So I always mention Phil Parkinson because he signed me and he took me there, and I'm thankful that that he did, because I wouldn't have gone on to do what I've done since. But yeah, as to answer your question, who brought out the best in me was Chris Powell, without a doubt. Why? Because it was the first time really that a manager had just shown complete faith in me. Like, he made me captain, basically, without saying it, sort of said, because he came in the summer he came in, he brought in, I think, maybe 18 new players, and he kept like 2 of us from the previous season. So straight away you're thinking, well, he must like me, I'm one of the ones that he's kept round. And then he pretty much he made me feel like I was his main man. He made me captain, and that gave me the confidence to sort of take my game to the next level, really. Was it any one thing? It weren't any one thing that he said or done. It was just the way he was with me. The way he made me feel like he made me feel like I was a good player, which for me, and giving me the captaincy, was like, right, okay, it was like he's shown that faith in me, that was giving me that responsibility. I need to repay it now. That was how I felt, and I felt if I didn't, then I was letting him down, and that was it really. That was what made me that was a game changer for me. That was when I went, I think, from being maybe like a boy to like now I'm going to crack on and be like a proper. I'm captain of Charlton, which is a big club. Like, that's a big responsibility. Now you need to take it on. You need to warrant it.
And so simple from him as well.
Yeah, that was what he was great at though. He was a good man manager. He made you want to win for him. I don't know, like I've been asked about this loads, like how do you do that? I don't know. It's just, I think it's by building rapport, building relationships, being personable. Like, he had a way of making you want to win for him. And if you didn't do well, like, you felt like you'd let him down. And I think if you can get your players thinking like that they've let you down if they don't, they don't quite do it, then you're onto something. And that was his best attribute.
Don't give too much away, because some players might be watching this. So, it leads in very nicely to the fact that you're very much in the leadership mould, and you wore the captain's armband for several years. How did you handle that responsibility? You say that it matured you, but what else could you tell us about having that?
It made me feel responsible. Like, it was a privilege, and it was like a big responsibility, and I took it. I think I really took it on board to make that like, well, I need to go above and beyond now. And if new players came to the club, it was my job to show them the ropes, make sure that they knew about Charlton, what it was about. I built up relationship with the supporters, through social media and appearances, and always being sort of accessible and present. I saw that as my responsibility, being the captain.
Did you view yourself as a captain before that? Is it something you always kind of looked to?
Yeah, I'd captained. I was never the club captain of Colchester, but I had captained the side quite a few times. I was starting to get to that stage where I thought I was ready for it. But yeah, it really like I said, it was a game changer for me. It made me worry less about myself all the time as well. As a footballer, like, you can be a team player, you can worry about yourself, or you can do a little bit of both. I sort of went from, like, I hope I have a good game today, first and foremost, and then if we win, bonus, to going the other way. Like, let's win, and then if I can do well and help the team, brilliant, then everyone's a winner. But yeah, it becomes less about you, and now it becomes about the group, and like, you're almost the manager on the pitch and in the training ground and on the training pitch. It's more to, well, for me anyway, there was more to it than just an armband.
I think Charlton fans would, love to hear that as well. And
yeah.
I know, having spoken to many, that they'd agree with that. In 2011, 2012, you captained the club. to the League One title and promotion, scoring 13 goals in 39 appearances. You were shortlisted for League One Player of the Year and were included in the PFA League One Team of the Year. Looking back on that year, what were your favourite memories, and are there any turning points in the season, anything you can tell us?
Cool. I've got loads of great memories.
Not just the celebrations.
I was going to say my favourite one's probably Vegas after we'd won it. That was a good one. From the pre-season, we had a pre-season trip where we was allowed a night out, and that group that he built powerly. Like, we knew from real early on that we had like something special, and we had good players for that level, definitely. But I mean, what a group of lads, like, become mates, all mates off the pitch, still are now, a lot of us. Like, it's quite unique, I think, in football. That was a special time, and turning points in we started the season brilliantly, but we lost to Stevenage. I think was our first defeat, 10 games in, and I remember like being like, right, we ain't letting that happen again. You know, it was one, and then we had that sort of mentality as a side. So that was the kick up the bum that we needed at that stage. For me personally, there was, you know, our biggest rivals were Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday that season. And we had a week where we beat them back-to-back 1-0, and I scored the winner in both games. That was like, you know, a massive week for the club. We'd put both of our rivals to the sword, and obviously massive, like, personally as well. So that felt like a turning point in the season where we really sort of felt like we are the best side now. And then there was getting over the line, Carlisle away. We just knew that if we won the game, I think if Sheffield Wednesday didn't win and we won, that was it. And even though before that you were starting to think like, this is definitely going to happen, you still think the worst, didn't you? Like, oh, but what if we get beaten? I don't think we even played well at Carlisle away. Tough place to go, but we scored a scrappy goal. I think Bradley Wright Phillips with 10 minutes to go, 1-0. And then you find out Sheffield Wednesday ain't winning, and you're like, this is it. We're going to do it, and we did. That was unbelievable feeling. Again, it was only the second thing I'd ever won in football. Obviously League Two, now League One, but being the captain, it was a completely different feeling as well. Flew back to London, went out that night. Like, it was just, when you look back, honestly, it was a time of your life. You don't realise it at the time, you're caught up in it, but unbelievable. And then, you know, in the last game, getting to lift the trophy as a captain, is obviously something you never forget. You know, it's at the club now, it's quite an iconic moment. It's the first thing we'd won in a long time, since sort of the playoffs probably in '98. So, you know, the pictures, you know, that you'll have forever now. Getting to lift the trophy as a captain, you know, at whatever level, is a great feeling. So, yeah, what a year! Unbelievable time.
Fantastic. You can see from you speaking about it that it was a great period for yourself as an individual, as you say, but more importantly and above and beyond, the group worked together in the club as well. We're in an era where players and managers are media savvy, can be very neutral. You, however, are adored by Charlton fans who are engaging with them, applauding at the end of the games, spending time with young supporters, as well as keeping up morale in testing times that we're in now, charity work. Why is that so important to you?
It comes with the territory. I think you've got responsibility. You know, when you're at a football club, and, you know, we're seeing it now where fans ain't at games, and it's not the same. It's soulless, and you have to realise, especially at a club like Charlton, a real working class community club, like, to a lot of supporters, it's it's what they live for. Like, go work all week so they can go football on a Saturday, and you're out there like representing that football club. It's important. It's really important, and a lot of people probably aren't aware of how much it means to people. But I became quite aware through the relationships that I built up, and taking that responsibility on board to make it my business. That, I was always quite aware of the importance of playing for the club and the role that I had, and it's something that I enjoyed. I enjoyed building them relationships. I enjoyed representing the football club. But the stuff that they do in the communities, is second to none really in the country. They won a lot of awards and plaudits for that. So it was important that, you know, I buy into that as well and help that grow. And I think it's just not, you know, it's important to be nice as well, you know, charitable. So where you can help, and you can, being in the positions that we're in, you can do a lot of good work and a lot of help people. Even if sometimes just a little message on the Twitter and things like that, you know, that can make someone's day. How hard is that? It's not hard to do, is it? So things like that was important to me. I think, and it's helped as well, like build, you know, sort of the reputation that I've managed to build for myself at the club by doing stuff like that as well.
I think from what I've heard and seen and know anyway, I think you're going to be remembered at Charlton for many, many years to come. But obviously, your Charlton story doesn't end there. And unfortunately, there has been a period during your time at the club where, to say the least, there's been ownership challenges. Now, for Sports Hub video fans who may not be fully aware, I'd like to give a small insight, hopefully with accuracy, before throwing it over to you. There was a Belgian businessman, Roland Duchâtelet, who paid over £10 million to acquire Charlton Athletic. The intention was to utilise relationships with other clubs across Europe, move players between teams. Duchâtelet's network quickly showed it maybe didn't quite have the level of players required to play in the Championship. The club were relegated to League One. He apparently, you can correct me if I'm wrong, did things like cut crisps from office workers to save money on cleaners, potentially asked players to drink from water from the taps instead of providing bottles to save money. Charlton fans, who have a long history in standing up to injustices against their club, like when they were exiled from the Valley, formed CARD, C-A-R-D, coalition against Roland Duchâtelet. Protests included a coffin with RIP Charlton Athletic written on it, thousands of plastic pigs thrown onto the pitch, a taxi for Roland that was driven all the way to Belgium, and hundreds of Charlton fans marching through Duchâtelet's hometown in Belgium, which is an incredible story in itself. And firstly, credit to the Charlton fans for playing their part in removing the chairman, but what are your views on this whole period at the club?
It has been a difficult time. Before I hammer him, what I would say is he did put money into the football club, and we never not got paid. We was always paid on time. We was always paid on full. So he did keep the club running. You know, which he shouldn't be congratulated for. He took that responsibility on board. But I've seen what can happen since when someone doesn't do that, and it's messy and it doesn't look good. So he always done that. But yeah, I mean, touching on some of the stuff that you said, I think he definitely underestimated what he got involved in. So I think, and this is just my opinion, but I think his plan was to filter loads of Belgian, or not necessarily Belgian, but players from his Belgian connections into the Championship. I think he completely underestimated the level of the Championship. Thought because they was in the top league in Belgium that they could come in and we would automatically get promoted to the Premier League, and then everyone would be a winner because of the riches that go with that. But we had Belgian managers. Some were good, some were not so good. We had a lot of Belgian players, or players out of the Belgian league. Again, some were good, but some weren't good enough for the level. But it was too much, and it went on for too long before the damage was done. We actually, instead of getting promoted, we got relegated because he built a team that wasn't able to sustain what was required at the Championship. Certain appointments, managerial appointments, weren't the right ones at the right time. I felt like we had a great core of the team that I spoke about that got promoted. We didn't need much help to have been able to, you know, to make a sustained challenge. I mean, I think we finished maybe 10th. I might have been higher than that. The first year in the Championship, we're pretty much a similar squad to what we got promoted with. And I think if we'd have kept hold of you likes of Jan Kermorgant, who went to Bournemouth, Dale Stephens, who went to Brighton and has had a great career, and added a few. We could have got to the Premier League without that experiment. That's what I felt. That was my opinion. And I think if he'd have given Paoli more time, he might have been the man to get us there. But I felt like Paoli was always on borrowed time. Once Du Châtelet came in, I think he had his own idea of managers and things like that, like he did with players. So it was a failed experiment, in my opinion. And then I think after that, he probably realised that he was never going to make it that way to the Premier League, and there was cost cutting. There was, well, you said something about Chris at the Valley, didn't you? Like there was I mean, I don't know, I don't work at the Valley, but there was stories that, you know, making sure that all the lights are switched off, the heating was switched off, working in coats, and you couldn't. I think the Chris thing was you couldn't eat at your desk because then they'd need cleaners in to tidy up, and didn't want to hire cleaners. There was a thing with water at the training ground. It wasn't the first team, but I think it was with the youth team. They wanted to take out the bottled water and just have, you know, where you fill your. Not a massive deal, but there was loads of stuff like that. There was clearly cost cutting. Everything was stripped back, and it didn't. And even recruitment in on the football side of things was cut back, and it never really gave us an opportunity to be competitive. Like, I mean, we're probably going to come onto it, but I think we got promoted again, despite Du Châtelet rather than because of him, you know. So we wasn't given the help that we needed.
What were the main challenges? When we talk about the office staff, which are massively important to a club and to the wider business, but from a player's perspective, what were the challenges you faced as a squad and as a captain?
The hardest thing for me was because there was a lot of changeover of players, and there was a load of players that came in that didn't speak English, which was problematic. There was a load of coaches. I mean, I remember a time where we had, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a French coach, and we had a lot of French speaking players. There wasn't all French, some were Belgian, so from all over, but a lot of French speaking, and he was coaching in French. And obviously, I can't understand what he's saying, and like I couldn't believe like what was happening. Like we're in England. For me, you speak English, and that's how it should be. If you need to give them particular directions in French so they understand, fine, no problem. That's always going to happen. You know, we're not saying that it should all be Englishmen playing for the side or English speak. You know, no problem at all. I play with numerous players from overseas that are great players and great lads and stuff like that. But for me, it was the changing room was so bitty. It became cliquey. The coaching in French, I couldn't get my head around like that. You know, I'm club captain and I can't understand the instructions that are being given to me. It didn't sit right with me. That's just one example. It became cliquey and the changing room wasn't great. He sold, like I mentioned, players that I felt would have helped us go that way. Got rid of, never replaced them properly, and we fell away. It was quite demoralising, really, because I felt like we were so close with that team that got promoted to go again. And when you think you're on the cusp of something really good, and then to just see like the bottom fall out of it, and it go the other way, was disheartening. It was really disheartening, and it just got to a point where you couldn't see it changing under his stewardship.
Was there a period where you were worried for the future of the club?
I've been worried for the future of the club for a number of years, really, yeah. But like I say, I never felt like financially we was going to be in trouble while he was there, because like I said before, we always got paid, bills got paid, stuff like that. There was cutbacks, yeah. We knew, that stuff was being held back, but the important stuff was getting paid. So I never felt like financially we was in trouble. That came later. That came later, and that's why I opened up saying what I said about him, because you can angle all the criticism you like, and some of it will be fair, but some of it won't, because he did always pump money into the football club, even though he was probably operating at a massive loss. So he done some good things. He got a lot of things wrong as well.
There is some good news. There's a new dawn on the horizon. Thomas Sandgaard has taken over the club. What can Charlton fans expect from him, yourself and Lee and the team moving forward?
Well, I can only, he's been quite vocal in what you can expect from him. So I'd just be echoing what he said. He's got a vision and a plan for what he wants from the football club. He's very hands-on, very present, which is what we perhaps lacked under Du Châtelet. He's said that Lee Bowyer's, the man that he sees to take the club forward, and obviously with Lee comes myself and stuff like that. So from our point of view, brilliant. The club was in a real bad position before he took over. The Du Châtelet sale, obviously, that went horribly wrong. So that period between Roland selling just before Christmas up until Mr. Sandgaard taking over we were staring into the abyss financially. You asked about financials before. Under Du Châtelet we never was, but in the last 6 months we was, and we could do a whole show on why that was, but I'd rather not give them the airtime, to be honest, because they don't deserve it. But Mr. Sandgaard has saved us, basically. I think we was bang in trouble. So we thank him for that. And it got us out of an embargo. We couldn't sign any players, which we now can. You're up against it a little bit with his salary cap that's now in League One and League Two. So, he's a wealthy man. He could be Bill Gates, but you can't spend it all because of this salary cap. So you have to be prudent with what you do and do shrewd business. But at least we can do business, and we can bring players in, and we can try and build a squad now that's competitive, which is all we've asked, really. Will we be able to build a squad that was as good as the one that went up a couple of years ago? Is remains to be seen. It'd be tough. Be tough to reach that level, but at least we can now be competitive. Whereas, in the last window, January, we was being told we're going to sign this player, that player, that player, and it turned out we was under embargo the whole time, and we couldn't do anything. So at least we've got a straight talker now, who's sort of, backing up his words and put his money where his mouth is. Like I always say, proof's in the pudding, innit? We've had people in before saying they're going to do this and they're going to do that, but they've turned out to be phonies, and obviously this guy isn't. So it's definitely looking a lot brighter than it ever was, than it has been in the last sort of years, really.
There was an interim period with ESI at the back end of 2019 that come in. Obviously not there for a long time. What impact did that have on the club, and what frustrations did they bring?
They had a big impact on the club, but none of it positive. They came in December, again with grand plans, saying the right things, and that we was going to do this and we was going to do that. But it's been well documented that it seems that they put no money into the football club and took quite a bit of money out, and they wasn't in it for the right reasons. Saying that we was going to invest in the football club, in the playing staff, bring players in. Actually, because they never proved their funds or the source of their funds to the EFL, we was under the transfer embargo for that whole time, because they managed to take over the football club for £1, I think, from Du Châtelet, and took on, in layman's terms, I think they took on the debt, and Roland still owned the Valley and Sparrows Lane. So in effect, they didn't really own much, and there was still sort of funds to keep the football club running for a certain period. But like I said before, Mr. Sandgaard come out, that those funds had pretty much gone. and we was looking in a real bad place. Meanwhile, the ESI fellas had disappeared again, and sort of had their way, and then got out of town really. So that's me putting it as polite as I possibly can. But it was frustrating for me because having been at the football club for so long, and because it means so much to me to see it sort of used as a plaything for these people, and it was played out in the media and just sort of made to look Mickey Mouse when it's not. It was sort of really upsetting to see the damage that they was doing and the upset that they was causing to a lot of people. Was wrong. It was wrong, and it was immoral what they done. And for me, there's no place for it in football. Maybe I'm being naive because it goes on. It does happen. Right or wrong, it happens. But for me, it should play no part. But I don't want to give them more sort of credit than that. Really, they're gone. We're moving on. Things are looking better, and the less said about them, the better. To be honest.
I can well imagine. And it's frustrating, 2 clubs in your career, questionable ownership, frustrating times for either the players or the fans especially. As you mentioned, we are in a positive time with Thomas Sandgaard taking over the club, and you are now working alongside, as you have been for a while now, Lee Bowyer as assistant manager. How are you finding this role alongside Lee?
I love it. It's the next best thing to playing for me. I'm enjoying coaching, young coach, but what we've learnt in the 2 years that we've been doing it, I feel like we've had sort of 10 years experience crammed into 2. Promotion, relegation, dealing with good owners, bad owners, not being able to sign players. It's been a whirlwind. It's been a roller coaster. Especially last season was more downs than ups, and the first year was like unbelievable. Like we managed to crown it off with getting promoted, and you're thinking, "Cool, this is easy, this coaching lot." Like, and then it was like back down to earth with a wallop the following year, and you're like, "Wow, that's the flip of that." But if you're going to be in this game, then you're gonna experience that for years to come. So I feel it's been a real learning curve to see it, like what I know now from what I knew 2 years ago, and how I developed as a coach, and probably developed a thicker skin and maybe less emotional about things, because you have to sort of take a step back. But I love it. I love every day. I love being out on the grass with the players, training, because that was all I ever wanted to do, when I was playing, and now you can't do that. It's the next best thing. I've got a great relationship with the manager. It gives me a lot of responsibility, and we work really well together. We've built considering we was thrown together, we didn't know each other before he came to the football club, and we was thrown together as a manager and as an assistant. It's worked out brilliantly. We're really close now, and we built up a good team. So it couldn't have, despite the ups and downs, it couldn't have worked out any better for me, really, since I retired.
And there'll be many football fans, let alone Charlton fans, who will watch this interview with interest and a detailed eye. But many will never have played the game at a professional level or had the insights that you will have had. What are the core responsibilities of an assistant manager?
That's a good question, that, because it's quite, for me, I think it's quite a niche role, because you're a coach. First and foremost, you are a coach. So your core responsibilities are being able to deliver good sessions, being able to tailor what you need from your team and stuff like that. But that's only a small part of it, really. A lot of it you're a go-between between the players and the manager. I have to decide what I don't want to burden the manager with everything. The manager's job is so important. He's got a clear sort of set things that he needs to concentrate on. He needs to concentrate on picking the team, watching training sometimes from afar, so he can, just assess and see what is going on. He doesn't need to be bothered with some of the mundane day-to-day things that I then have to decide what I take to him and what I don't, and what I think I'll deal with that because he's got other things to worry about. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of you have to build relationships with players, because there'll be a lot of times where they need to talk to someone, but they don't want to go and talk to the manager because that's a bigger step. And so you'll be the one. Sometimes you're the one who gets vented at. Sometimes you're the one who has to put the arm around. So it is. There's a lot to it. A lot of it is relationships and just making sure you're present, being smiley. Like if we've got beat on a weekend, the manager can sometimes have the arse ache for a couple of days, but it's my job to sort of get around everyone and try and lift them and get them going again, because you can't just mope forever. So that's part of it. I have to I try and leave my mood, whatever mood I'm in, I try and leave it at the gate when I get there in the morning. Leave your mood at the gate and play the role. Sometimes I like the ump, because I take losing as bad as anyone. Probably more so now I'm a coach than when I played. But it's my job to sort of be the one who tries to lift the spirits, lift the morale.
Do you play a part in saying to the manager, I know you want to grill them, but the mood tells me let's hold off? Or
strategy. Always strategy. And I've got a close enough relationship with him that I can say those things, and he wouldn't want it any other way. So I'll always give my opinion. Sometimes I can see that he might be about to look like blow his top, like you say, and I might see it a different way. And I'll say like, what's that? Phone, sorry.
So it's fine, carry on, mate.
Sometimes he might be about to blow his top, and I might just say, look, I'll just take a step back, and maybe now ain't the time. And he may or may not take that on board, but if that's what I'll say it, and quite often he'll go, yeah, no, you're right. Sometimes I can see he's about to lose it, and I think, yeah, like he needs to, because they need it. Off you go. Let him lose it. But yeah, there's a lot of strategy involved. I'll give my opinion on what I think the team should be on a Saturday. Like, we're not always going to agree on that. And he'll say, right, well, what do you think? Why do you think it? And as long as you've got a reason to back it up, like, he'll always take my opinion on board. Ultimately, he'll pick the side. And when we leave the office, we've decided the way we're going to go, and that's what we will deliver on the training pitch. And there can never be cross lines then, but you can get all that. I think if you've got a healthy working relationship, you can get all that out in the office, air anything that you want to say, give any opinion that you want to give, and he wants that from me. He wants that.
Sounds like it's a great time for the club to have that kind of leadership and honesty and.
I think so, yeah. I think so, and I think the fact that we're both sort of, he started at Charlton, came up through the youth team. Obviously, I've been there forever long, so we both. It's not just a job to us as well. Like we care about the football club and its well-being. Long after we've gone, it's gonna be there, and we want to do the best that we can now, but we want to leave it in a good place as well. Like, we know we're not going to be there forever. Football's a harsh game. One day we'll probably get sacked and you'll be gone from there, or you'll leave and go somewhere else or whatever. But that's the life of a manager and a coach. That's always going to happen. But at the moment we're custodians of that football club, and we have to do the right thing by it and try and leave it in a good place.
Just kind of finish up in your role as an assistant manager and the kind of things you've touched on. What would you say are your core footballing values, the philosophy you like to see?
The main thing that we want is we insist on hard work. So that's non-negotiable. You have to leave everything out there when you play for us. We want to, and I think that's a Charlton principle as well. Like, all Charlton fans will accept a lack of quality sometimes, and I think that's probably why they took to me so much, because the way I played, like, I wasn't the world's best player, but I tried my nuts off. That was one thing I did do. Whether it was going well or it weren't going well, I'd always do my best, try my hardest, and anyone can do that. That's a non-negotiable. And the moment you're not doing that, then you're going to have a problem with us. and all our training is geared towards that and being high tempo, intense. A lot of people come to us from other clubs and say that they haven't trained like that, and whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I don't know, you have to ask them, but like for me, that's the way it needs to be, especially the way that modern football's going. Most coaches would tell you that that's the way they want to be, but you have to train like that every day. That's what we insist from our players. We try and build up an open door policy, really. Like, we want you to be able to come and see us. And when I was a player, what did you want from your manager? You wanted honesty. Whether you want to hear it or not, it ain't always going to be good. But you want to be told the truth. You don't want to be told, you're not playing this week because I'm going to give you a little rest and stuff. Oh, I don't need a rest. I want to play. All right, well, you're not playing because last week you didn't do the business. That's better. That's what you want to hear as a player. Was what I wanted to hear anyway. So we're trying like that with our players, to be honest. Give everyone a fair crack at the whip. If you're then not producing, then you won't be in the side. It's as simple as that. So yeah, honesty and hard work are the main things. Obviously, we try and build it up tactically. We like to play attacking football. Love two strikers on the pitch, ideally. But we're becoming a little bit more flexible, I think, tactically as we go on, which I think you've got to be tailoring, the way you play to who you're playing sometimes, depending on our position and stuff like that. But yeah, if I go back, the core things are, you have to be hardworking, you have to be honest if you want to play for us.
And can't argue with that. And I wouldn't want to come between yourself and Lee with such a perfect relationship. I have to ask the question. Former captain, any managerial aspirations anywhere for yourself? Yeah.
I want to manage. I've wanted that for a long time, to be honest. Once I become captain and I got a little bit older, obviously you turn towards what you're going to do after, and I always wanted to coach. But then the older I got, the more you look at the other side of things, and you look at the game differently, tactically and stuff like that, and you start having your own ideas and how you do things. Yeah, and I'm desperate to manage one day. I'm not in any rush, like we spoke about. I love doing what I'm doing, but yeah, one day when I'm ready, I don't want to jump into it and not think I'm ready, but it's tough because if opportunities come up, you might have to take them, even though you might not be quite ready, or it might not be the perfect scenario. But there's a lot of coaches and managers out of work who are desperate for work, so you have to be shrewd with the choices that you make. And like I say, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, but yeah, my aspirations are to manage. Lee knows that. We've had numerous conversations about it. And I'm sure one day he'll want that for me as well. We work great together at the minute, and long may that continue. But one day I'm gonna get itchy feet and want to do it myself.
Well, I think with your honest reflection, your movement through the game of experiences and different clubs and types of football and challenges as well, I'm sure that's a natural progression that will definitely come your way. I'd like to finish with a kind of double-barreled question, as it were. What would you like your personal legacy to be from your perspective and that of the fans of the clubs you've played for?
I think you touched on it earlier, and you said you're going to be remembered, so that's what we all want, for the right reasons. Obviously, I feel like if and when I leave Charlton, that I'll be remembered for a long time, which is important. I think I'll be remembered as someone who always gave their all, no matter the scenario. That I was loyal, stuck by the club in good and bad times. And I always say the football club, I've been good for the football club, the football clubs have been good for me. So it was a really good fit. And I'm proud of the relationships that I've built up. They'll last beyond me being at the football club, I'm sure. So I'd just like to be remembered for someone who gave their all when they was out on the pitch, who produced some good memories, football-wise. It was, we always done the right thing by the football club, and you just want as a good guy, really. That's what that's the mark you want to leave on anyone, really, any club or any people you meet.
Well, from the many people that I've spoken to and the many aspects of research I've done, I think that goes without saying. You really have been a connector between community and club. I'm sure there could have been times many of you could have walked away and you didn't. So thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
Congratulations on a great career.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Nice one.